off, ape! This truck is HOA property now!
Sometimes the quietest neighborhoods hide the loudest kind of arrogance. White fences, trimmed lawns, rules written by people who mistake control for order. And when that kind of power meets a man who's seen real battle, it never ends well. Before we go any further, welcome to Voices Unchained. If you believe respect should never be mistaken for weakness, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your location. Let's see how far these stories travel. He was known simply as Shane. Late 30s, calm eyes, and the kind of posture that said more than words ever could. 15 years on the SWAT team had molded him into the kind of man who understood chaos, how to control it, and more importantly, when to walk away from it. He'd done his service, seen what happens when people lose their humanity in the name of control. So when he retired, he didn't chase luxury. He bought peace. A modest 3-bedroom home on Rockwell Street, quiet, predictable, the kind of place where life finally felt simple. He spent his mornings with a cup of black coffee, a gentle breeze through the curtains, and a view of his black Dodge Ram parked along the curb. That truck wasn't just a vehicle, it was therapy. The hum of the engine reminded him that discipline didn't have to come from orders anymore, it could come from peace. Every Saturday, he took it to the range, spotless and precise. Reinforced leather seats, no scratches, no noise, no ego. He parked it legally, carefully, never an inch out of line. 2 full years without a single complaint, until one quiet morning. The yellow paper was the first thing he saw. Bright, bold, taped under his windshield wiper like a challenge. Vehicle subject to towing within 24 hours. He frowned, reading the fine print. They quoted a section about curb alignment and aesthetic disruption. But the truck wasn't over the curb, not even close. He measured things like that. Always. It wasn't the notice that bothered him, it was the tone, that cold, condescending language that assumes guilt before asking questions. He didn't curse, didn't even sigh. He just folded the paper neatly, slid it into his back pocket, and took a slow sip of his coffee. That evening, Shane walked to the community center, the kind of walk that tells the world you're not angry, you're in control. Inside, under flickering fluorescent lights, sat the HOA board. At the center, Rebecca Langford, the self-appointed president. Every inch of her posture screamed superiority, shoulders back, chin high, smile sharp enough to cut glass. To her right, Sam, the accountant, nervous, quiet, eyes darting like a man who wanted no part of what was happening. And to her left, Frank, the maintenance contractor, thick arms folded tight, wearing a blue shirt stitched with the words Preferred Community Services. Shane stepped in, calm, respectful. "Good evening," he said. "I got a notice on my this morning. I'm here to understand why." Rebecca didn't look up from her papers. "Mr. Cooper, rules are rules," she said with a dismissive tone. "Pickups that size aren't in keeping with the community aesthetic," he nodded slowly. "Ma'am, my truck's parked legally. I've reviewed the HOA handbook. There's no clause against vehicle type." She finally looked at him. "The board has discretion. Multiple complaints have been filed. Your vehicle is disruptive to the landscape." "Disruptive?" Shane echoed, calm but precise. "The landscape is concrete." Frank chuckled under his breath until Rebecca silenced him with a glare. Shane's voice stayed even. "Just curious, are these the same rules that apply to the Camaro parked on your lawn, the one with the expired tags and the cracked bumper?" Rebecca's eyes sharpened. "We're not discussing my son." That told him everything he needed to know. She believed rules existed for everyone but her. He didn't push it further, didn't argue or explain. He simply nodded once, turned, and walked out. Because he'd learned long ago, real power doesn't announce itself. It waits. 2 mornings later, 6:41 a.m., a metallic clank, then another. Shane looked out his window. His truck, his perfectly parked, perfectly legal truck, was being chained to a tow truck. 3 men in black tactical shirts stood around it, bold white letters across their chests, HOA enforcement. Shane stepped outside, no yelling, just presence. "Put the truck down," he said evenly. One of the men froze mid-motion. That voice, calm, deep, commanding, it wasn't a threat. It was a statement of authority. Across the street, Rebecca stood with her phone out, recording. Her voice rang through the morning air. "I warned you, Mr. Cooper. Now you'll learn what happens when you break the rules." Shane didn't even look at her. He pulled his phone from his pocket, pressed 2 buttons, and spoke into it quietly. "Alpha 27. Private property breach in progress. Civil escalation likely. My residence. Then he hung up, walked back inside, picked up his coffee, and waited. Outside, the contractors hesitated. Rebecca's voice wavered just slightly. Ignore him. He's bluffing. Do your job. Then, a black unmarked car rolled up. No sirens, no flashing lights, just quiet, deliberate authority. 3 men stepped out, broad shoulders, calm eyes, every movement efficient. At the front was Raymond Sampson, former SWAT commander, now county investigator. Shane stepped back outside, nodding once. Ray, he greeted. Shane, Raymond replied, with a faint smile. Heard you ticked off another suburban dictatorship. They came for the truck, Shane said simply. Raymond glanced at the scene. The tow truck, the contractors, the yellow tape. He walked around the Dodge Ram, crouched, and shook his head. Doesn't look like a violation to me. One of his men flipped through the tow operator's paperwork. No county registration, no license for residential enforcement, and this work order, he held it up, is billed to the HOA's Park Maintenance Fund. Rebecca's voice trembled. That's internal business. Raymond turned slowly. Ma'am, that's public fund misallocation. He motioned to his agents. Document everything. Names, signatures, photos, all of it. They moved fast. Discipline born from training. Every paper photographed, every invoice copied. Raymond leaned close to Shane. You want to take this federal? Public fund fraud, intimidation, misuse of community resources? Shane took a breath. Start local. Raymond nodded. Understood. An hour later, it was all traced back. Every cent, every fake invoice, every unauthorized payment. Rebecca had written checks to herself, created community maintenance reimbursements, 8 months of quiet corruption wrapped in polite smiles. Raymond handed Shane a flash drive. It's all here. Give it to the right hands. Shane pocketed it. Always do. Before we continue, take a second. If you've ever dealt with someone who abused their position, comment, not this time. Let's remind people, power without integrity always collapses. By noon the next day, the file sat on the detective's desk at Rockwell County PD. They reviewed everything, photos, signatures, timestamps. It was airtight, and by sunset, the street was lined with unmarked county cars. Neighbors peeked through their blinds as officers walked toward Rebecca's front door. Her voice came muffled through the door. There's been some mistake. The knock came again, louder. Then the door opened, and Raymond stepped in. Rebecca Langford, he said clearly, you're under arrest for misappropriation of community funds, illegal enforcement operations, and filing falsified HOA invoices. She tried to speak, but the words broke under pressure. This is harassment. You don't understand. Raymond nodded to his team. Cuff her. The click of the handcuffs echoed down Rockwell Street. Across the road, Shane stood in silence, coffee in hand, watching. Not smiling, not celebrating, just calm. Because to him, this wasn't revenge. It was restoration. Peace had been disturbed. Now it was balanced again. Days later, the board was suspended. The HOA's finances audited, the contractors fined and barred from residential contracts. Rebecca's name hit the papers. Local HOA president charged with fraud. And the truck? Still parked in the same exact spot. Perfectly aligned, untouched. Every morning after that, Shane sipped his coffee, looking at the reflection of sunlight on the hood, and thought, not about war, not about power, but about restraint. Because real strength isn't loud. It's quiet, patient, controlled. So remember this, never mistake silence for weakness. Never mistake calm for surrender. Because sometimes the man you're trying to humiliate is the one who taught others how to end a siege. And when arrogance meets discipline, only one walks away with peace. If you believe in that kind of justice, make sure you subscribe and share this story. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you've ever met your own Rebecca, let's hear your story in the comments.